Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome to another Paralives speed build. Today we're working on a Cape Cod style mansion with a Ralph Lauren interior. We're going to go over both of those topics in a little moment, but first of all, just for those of you who missed it, this is actually the second time I'm building this. I had a pretty bad save crash where I just lost the whole save, so actually lost everything I've worked on so far. Obviously most of the houses are up on the workshop, so they're there if I want to grab them, but unfortunately, timing wise this one was 80% done, I guess, and then unfortunately lost it. So this is take 2, and because of that, I don't know, I think the first one was a little better, but I did make some changes to this one to make it work a little better as far as gameplay is actually concerned. The first one, the roof was arguably a little bit more realistic for a Cape Cod build, but it was always having pieces disappear. At basically, anytime you use the advanced move tool, there's just a chance that it all goes away, and it often did. So I'm actually trying to use the advanced move tool as little as possible at the moment until we see a fix for it. The developers, they're aware there's an issue, and hopefully we see a fix for it in the future. But here we go. We're looking at Cape Cod as an architecture style. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll look at the Ralph Lauren interior. When people think of a classic American home, there's a good chance they're imagining something influenced by Cape Cod architecture, whether they realize it or not. It's one of those styles that feels familiar almost everywhere. It's simple, it's symmetrical, and it's comfortable, and that's because it's never really intended to be fashionable. A lot of the similarities you'll see here with the Dutch colonial builds that I did a couple of weeks ago. Honestly, there's a lot of similarities here. Cape Cod houses began appearing in the 17th century, brought to North America by English settlers arriving in New England. The style takes its name from the region of Cape Cod in Massachusetts, although you will see similar homes in this style throughout coastal New England. Settlers who built these homes weren't architects in the modern sense. They were adapting building traditions they already knew to suit a very different environment. New England winters were harsh, materials were limited, and survival mattered more than aesthetics. And the end result was a house designed around practicality. Early Cape Cod homes were typically small, rectangular structures with steep pitch roofs that helped shed snow during the winter. Their low profile reduced exposure to coastal winds, with a large central chimney providing heat throughout the house. The original floor plans were very straightforward. Standing in front of one, you'll often see a central entrance flanked by evenly spaced windows, creating a balanced and orderly appearance. But interestingly, the Cape Cod style nearly disappeared during the 19th century. Architectural styles shifted towards more elaborate Victorian designs filled with decorative trim and towers and ornamentation. Actually, the next thing I'm going to tackle is a classic sort of Queen Anne style house in that style, which I'm looking forward to giving a go. Very different to this. But this changed during the early 20th century as America experienced a colonial revival, something we spoke about again in that Dutch colonial build. And that's what you're looking at here, a revival Cape Cod style mansion. So it still brings over a lot of the traditional elements, such as a large amount of symmetry on the front of the building and these beautiful dormer windows on a fairly high pitched roof. But after that, it starts to verge away into more sort of McMansion territory with a secondary offshoot of a building and a garage space with housing above it. And just maybe a little more fancy, but still trying to keep the shingle and wood structure of the original style. But honestly, at this point, I haven't really tackled a big build like this, like a mansion style build like this, so I really wanted to give this a try. So this is definitely a Cape Cod Renaissance style build. Working on the exterior and adding in some lovely flower blades. I'm a big fan of the flowers. I would like more. I think if any modders are out there and are wondering what to work on, more flower options would be great. I would love to see smaller flower options that work more as like pieces of a bed. All the flowers in the game currently are really more of like a bunch of flowers. They work well for going into vases or for real small spaces, but I'd actually like to see patches of flowers more like you'd find if you just planted down wildflower or like sort of encroaching pansies, that kind of thing. Okay, moving on to the interior. I'm afraid I, for some reason, didn't record the very first bit of this build, so the cooker there, unfortunately, isn't for show. But then we're moving on to the rest of the kitchen. So what are we looking at doing on the inside then? Well, Ralph Lauren interior style obviously comes from the designer Ralph Lauren, although it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to it. A lot of this furniture style is available in Ralph Lauren stores, but really it's a larger design style that Ralph Lauren leans into, and is actually more sort of old worldy, a little farmhouse, a little vintage. The goal isn't minimalism, it's not modernism, it's not really even sort of historical accuracy. It's an inspiration, aspiration wrapped up in comfort. It's storytelling, really. Ralph Lauren interior should feel like it belongs to somebody with a rich and interesting life. Sort of people who spend summers on this New England coast. This might even be a second house for the people who own this. They also maybe have like a ranch in Colorado or something. They collect vintage books, although they never read them. They travel extensively. They perhaps sail or spend weekends riding horses. And honestly, whether any of that is actually true or not doesn't really matter. The space is telling that story regardless. It's almost an apocryphal space. One of the defining characteristics of the interior design style is layering. Modern design styles favour simplicity and restraint, whereas Ralph Lauren really embraces richness and almost gaudiness to an extent. Rooms often contain multiple textures, patterns, materials, and historical references all working together. You'll have leather sit alongside linen, wood sitting alongside polished brass, texture or patterns even very mixed. You'll see plaid mixed with stripe and even a little bit of animal print in there as well. It's incredible really that all of these things come together and yet the space somehow doesn't feel chaotic. It was actually a bit of a challenge to do, and perhaps in some ways it was a good idea that I got 2 goes at this house, because I feel like my first attempt was a little too gaudy, and I managed to tone it down a little bit here, but really it is still a very maximalist vibe in these spaces, and you really need to go the whole hog and use a lot of texture where you perhaps wouldn't normally, such as the feature wall you're looking at there. That's just using a one of the picture frames, the one that actually has no frame at all, I guess, but it's like a poster, and then I just found a wallpaper style that I think works pretty well in the space. One of the things I think is a little tricky to do with this style is not just keep falling onto browns and other earth tones like reds and greens. There is a lot of that in this space, but I really wanted to make sure that not every room looked like that. So we went for a lighter cream and green kitchen. And then here, the dining room is blue, and then pretty much all the other rooms end up being sort of those earth tones of browns and reds and greens. But a lot of fun laying all this up, trying to find all of the little individual pieces that work well. The game isn't necessarily set up for this sort of style right now, even though it is amazing how much clutter you can place down. A lot of that clutter is quite modernistic. There's definitely the things like Scandi or Japandi or minimalist trends in general, mid-century modern, are much easier, I think, to do with the furniture that's currently in the game. So you do have to kind of play around a little bit and use pieces in ways that you maybe wouldn't normally. Case in point here, kitchen counters plus bookcases equals a drinks cabinet. That's basically what we're coming up with here. A mirror behind it. This sort of more sort of gaudy furniture that is still doing a job, but really stands out in the way that it does that job, I think is very important. Comfort is essential. Nothing should feel fragile. These are spaces that are intended to be lived in, but yeah, definitely sort of feel lived in and old. This aesthetic has been around for many, many years now, but it is experiencing a bit of a resurgence in recent years. And I think that because broader cultural tastes have begun shifting away from the sleek minimalism that dominated much of the 2010s. For years, contemporary interiors have been defined by white walls, clean lines, philosophy of owning less, but as often happens in design, people eventually begin looking for something different, and the pendulum sort of swings across the other way, and we're definitely seeing that over the last decade or two. Many homeowners have started to gravitate towards spaces that feel warmer, more personal, and more rooted in tradition. Design trends such as quiet luxury or old money, traditional Americana, the revival of sort of classic English country house influences have all gained significant popularity online. Ralph Lauren's interiors fit naturally within that movement because it's been championing those ideas for decades. So Ralph Lauren hasn't really reinvented itself here. It's just been around long enough that it's come back into fashion again. Some commentators have linked this renewed interest in traditional design to wider cultural shifts, including a growing appreciation for heritage, continuity, traditional values within parts of American society. Conservatism, really, for want of a better word. I'm certainly not going to get political here on a video game about making a pretty house, but conservative ideas have become more visible in public discord. Certain traditional aesthetics have benefited from a renewed attention in this as well. It's important to not oversimplify that connection. Plenty of people who love Ralph Lauren interiors have no political motivation towards it whatsoever. They simply enjoy the warmth and craftsmanship of timeless character and style, but design never exists in a vacuum. The homes people admire often reflect broader cultural moods, and there does seem to be a growing appetite for interiors that feel established, rooted, and sort of connected with a past that people are longing for, whether it was ever really there or not. In many ways, Ralph Lauren has perfectly positioned for this moment, while other designers have chased changing trends. He and him as a person and as a company have spent decades refining this aesthetic built around tradition, heritage, and sort of classic American storytelling. And now that people are looking for those qualities again, his work feels surprisingly current and contemporary, despite being rooted in ideas that are often decades, even centuries old. So, it's a really interesting one to put together. It's not a design style I particularly enjoy myself for my home. I feel like I could happily stay in a cottage for a weekend that looked like this, and I'd walk around with a house coat and a brandy and pretend that I'm meant to be there. But it isn't the sort of thing I would want to live in. It's not a design style or a political affectation that I particularly appreciate. Really, I'm much more of a minimalist. But it is fun. Building like this, I think it really lets you test out the game. It lets you use a lot of pieces that you perhaps wouldn't normally use. Here, for instance, I thought this is a great use of a custom rug to make a chessboard that's always sort of set up. But just in general, being able to use a lot of texture and a lot of pattern and just, like I said, stuff that you wouldn't normally put together, it's actually a really fun attempt to just sort of shift and keep working with the game and coming up with new ways to play. And I think it's actually something really quite enjoyable, even though I don't necessarily appreciate the design and where it comes from at face value. I hope that makes sense. One of the mods I had before the game crashed was one that let you place down all of the paintings that you can find as collectibles that you can then I think you can add them to the museum in the game. I don't really play live mode or live mode if you're a weirdo. I very much just like to build stuff. But one of the mods did sort of unlock those as like a debug mode, and it was actually really good, and I used it quite a bit in the first build of this, but then having to uninstall everything, strip it all down, I had to go deep and find all of the cache files and everything. The game just did not want to play for me at all. So as part of that process, I got rid of all of the mods and then slowly built them back up again for my mod showcase video that I did last week or a few days ago. I forget now. It all kind of blends into one. So check that out if you're looking at some of these pieces and thinking, hey, I don't remember that being in the game. It may be that it's a mod, but I'm pretty sure everything I use in this build I showed off in that mod build from the other day. The room we're working on here is like a rec room or a rumpus room. Sometimes I know they're called in North America. Basically a space for the television and the games and a place for the kids to go to. So very often, if you are rich, I guess, for want of a better word, you will often have a separate room for this. Although even families that necessarily wouldn't consider themselves to be wealthy, I think in North America, due to the prevalence of basements, you'll very often have a lot of this sort of stuff in a basement, so as that your living space can be a little bit more sort of focused around conversation and togetherness rather than just watching the movies. I forget what it is. There's a quote from a sitcom or something, and somebody says that they don't have a TV, and the reply is, "What's all your furniture pointed at?" And that's what I always think about when I see these usually staged living rooms in spaces when you're looking up reference images, that it's a couch, two couches pointing towards each other against a fireplace or against a bookcase, and you do kind of think, well, that looks lovely, but what, are you sitting around talking to each other every night like animals? Like, where's Netflix? Where's Amazon Prime? So this is where that is. The television's there, but so I kind of wanted this to look a little bit more sort of thrown together, a little less curated, a little bit maybe like this is the older couch that's got pushed into here for the new couch to be placed in the main dining space, the main hanging out space, but still have that luxury Ralph Lauren layered fabrics style. Moving on to the bedroom, again, wanted to do something very ostentatious. That is that wall pattern there, again, just using a picture frame to add that in. I think it's called damask as a pattern. That might not be, damask pattern, so this is one I wasn't sure about. I had to look this up. Ralph Lauren, like I say, uses a lot of plaid and a lot of tartan. Very, very popular. Burberry, as well. Things like dogtooth, herringbone, all of those, like really sort of ostentatious fabric styles are used a lot. And then the one I didn't know the name of was this one. It's an ornate symmetrical design. It often uses sort of interlocking floral designs, scrolls, leaves, geometric motifs, that kind of thing. And it's called damask, and it's a texture that's not used as much with Ralph Lauren, but they same with animal print. It is an option. But it's not used consistently, so we just have a little sort of splashes in, and we keep referring back to those plaids and the tartans. The game itself has a couple of plaid and tartan fabric choices, but a lot of the cushions, they've been added in using custom content. Just going on to Google, you'll find a lot of that sort of stuff. It's really easy to find. There is one animal print in the game. It's sort of like a generic stripe. I think if it was black and white, it would look zebra. If it's sort of orange and black, it would look more tiger. Here we make it red, like it's meant to look like a fake animal print, because again, there is an importance on real fabrics and real materials in the style, but he's not unknown to use a little bit of fake stuff, especially with animal prints, just because of how animal skin is being used in this sort of thing is thought about in modern day, basically. So but I'm really happy with how this very ostentatious bedroom came out. You've got to get the cook chair in there as well. They all every hotel room I see now, and every sort of staged bedroom I see now has the little chair. So we had to do that. And then originally I wasn't planning on having an ensuite here, but I couldn't really think of anything else to put in this corner. So just threw a simple ensuite in here. And at this point, I kind of have to own up a little and say that the last bit of this build is a little phoned in. I'm not going to lie to you. At this point, I've done all of this twice because we just lost that first version of it. And I feel like I'd done everything I wanted to try and do with the style. I felt like I'd shown off enough good examples of the style. And really all I wanted to do was a living space, a dining space, a kitchen, and a bedroom. And I feel like once you've done those, you're just kind of repeating elements of a theme. So all I'm going to do with this build is finish off the second bedroom that I do as sort of like a teenage boy room. We have just a random guy here just to have the save file open. He's called Frank Wright again, but it's a younger version of him this time. The plan isn't that he lives here. So who this bedroom's actually for, I don't know. But I really wanted to just try this style so that the furniture and the textiles and the finishings are still very much in the Ralph Lauren style, but a younger guy who's starting to figure out his own style and what he's interested in is in this space and is able to start to explore that a little and have things that are more suitable for his age. So whilst we still have a fairly traditional bed and bed setting there, the desk is a more modern desk with a more modern computer. But then just little touches still with the books and stuff. I wanted this to look like a Ralph Lauren inspired space that a parent is sort of looking after, but then a teen is able to sort of start using the space as their own. So there's a nice little chair there, but it's just piled up with laundry. There's a walk-in closet, but there's just sort of stuff all around it and a few sort of gaming posters and things like that. So that's what I wanted to do with the space, and it was very good fun. There are 2 rooms currently unfurnished in this house that you can either make perhaps into a study or a 3rd or 4th bedroom or a guest bedroom or something like that. This is going to be on the workshop, so you can go ahead and get it and do whatever you like with it. But at this point I was like, do you know what, I kind of need to draw a line under this one now. I've spent about 3 weeks working on some version of this build. I've just got to try and get it out there, and we'll be tackling a Queen Anne style house project next. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give us a like, subscribe, all the YouTubey stuff. Love you all to bits. Until the next one, be good.